My name is Kimberly Brazwell, and I'm the author of a self-published memoir named Browning Pleasantville. I published this book in September of 2017, and the truth is that it was never actually supposed to be published. Now that we're 7 years in, and I'm reflecting on my 7th anniversary, which is unbelievable. All has happened since then. So here's a little insight on some secrets revealed behind the scenes about Browning Pleasantville. I was absolutely petrified to write this book because it was really just, honestly, it started as diary entries. I had a really heavy experience of workplace trauma through the lens of race, class, age, and gender. And I didn't know what to do with my feelings or emotions. I was so close to having a nervous breakdown. And thank God for mental health. I had a therapist who was very insightful about the fact that I was completely dysregulated and I needed some support. I needed a break. I needed a reprieve, and a long weekend wasn't going to do it. So I took a leave of absence to get myself together, mind, body, and spirit. This therapist asked me what I was going to do as part of my self-care, and I said I was going to write. So what I ended up doing was looking over lots and lots and lots of tear-stained diary entries of different experiences I'd had, and those turned into the initial chapters for the book. Talked with attorneys, did all of the things to protect myself so that I could share my truth in that moment about how I viewed the story, and that's what came to become Browning Pleasantville. I wrote the book maybe a couple years before I ever published it and sat it down. It was excruciating to write a story, a memoir of trauma. And so wrote it and sat it down only because, and this was a divinely ordained thing, I had a speaking engagement maybe a year or so later, and someone assumed that I had a book and said, yeah, we wanted to include a book signing in your speaking engagement. I'm like, well, look at God. My mother helped me edit it. Shout out to Patricia Bolton. And to go back after it had gotten cold and to reread and clean up and write through the stories, have editors' notes about, can you explain this? Can you put this more in detail? Very painful, but a very cathartic healing process to do that. So if I hadn't received that speaking engagement invitation, this would have never been a real book. As I'm doing more work with human beings, particularly through organizational healing, I'm being asked to do coaching more, which was never something that I planned on doing. So now I've been doing executive coaching for a few years now. And when I have people who have experienced any kind of disenfranchisement in the workplace, especially that's hit on a deeper level, that cellular level, that guttural level, I find like, and this is why the divine had me go through and survive and thrive after my Browning Pleasantville experience. I, at one point, was so fearful. I felt uncomfortable even being in the physical location where Browning Pleasantville took place. The hippocampus and the amygdala can be wicked bedfellows. And it took many years of healing to believe that I could survive a thing enough that the divine protection is big enough to really, really believe that's big enough to protect me. I never thought that there would be times when I was meeting with folks, which has happened, especially in the year of 2024, meeting with folks specifically who said, I read your book and it spoke to me, and would you mind speaking with a group of us or coaching a group of us on the kinds of Browning Pleasantville experiences we're having? So to be able to have an experience like that, work through it meticulously in a healing journey that took several years, and then be able to use the lessons that I experienced in living it, in writing through it, and healing from it to help others navigate through their experiences has been unfathomable and has aided in the healing component. It's given me much more than I thought I would ever get in publishing this book. It has become a gift to me and to my healing to know that what started as pain and crying and imposter syndrome and, inner child work, which that was another thing too, has resulted in something that has been able to grow beyond me. I'm so grateful and so blessed that I've had this experience to do so. Browning Pleasantville and writing the story and living through it and healing from it was the catalyst for my true, deep, most sincere inner child work. What I realized later on when I was well enough to do so is that my Browning Pleasantville experience triggered my childhood trauma. I didn't feel protected as a child, and then I was in a workplace experience where I didn't feel protected, right? And so it wasn't just that I was having a lack of occupational wellness, but I felt unprotected as I had before. And because the childhood trauma was not healed, there was an 8-year-old part of me that was showing up for work feeling like I was in the same situation that I was in 1984. It's not the same thing, baby girl, and we got to go back and do the healing. So rescue mission for the inner child absolutely was birthed from my Browning Pleasantville experience. Another thing that probably no one knows is I had another Browning Pleasantville experience after Browning Pleasantville. I just didn't write a book about it because I was trying to survive it. I went immediately out of my Browning Pleasantville story into another Browning Pleasantville story. I had another 2-year contract with a completely different organization that was completely traumatic in a completely different way. Shrunk me down to my core, made me feel like I was absolutely nothing. I had the experience of, from my opinion, and from the opinion of those who were close mentors to me, of being ostracized for a little bit, having a very difficult time being employed. And that experience, also healing experience, because it was the catalyst for me going full time, taking the big leap, the entrepreneurial leap of faith, and going full time with KiMISTRY and investing in myself and in how I believed healing centered and trauma informed social justice should look. These events happened for a reason. It didn't happen to me, it happened for me. Some of the most beautiful things that have happened since publishing Browning Pleasantville is learning that there are a lot more people that have read the book than I realized. I didn't write it so that that would become some kind of bestseller on the New York Times list. I wrote it as a healing component for myself and the hope and the prayer that it could be a healing component for other people. And it has been. It has given folks insight. Those who are people of color have been able to read it and be like, I get that. Those who are white have been able to say, I didn't realize that's what it looked like. I've been able to suggest this book to people, organizations who are looking to do DEI work, to say, are you really ready? Please don't put someone in here and allow them to become the linchpin for all of the pain that nobody wants to face to do real social justice work, because sometimes it's sometimes not DEI work. Sometimes it's social justice work, right? And so this experience also became the catalyst for me being able to, for me, separate out the difference between DEI work, social justice work, and trauma-informed work. And none of them are the same thing. I was able to find my lane and figure out what I believe my true calling, my anointing is, and able to lean into it because of that. So this is the book. This is Browning Pleasantville. Never thought this was possible, let alone the fact that I have moderate to severe ADHD, and I was able to somehow get my emotions in a linear format and be able to tell the story and share with others. So go out, support it, share it. If you do Amazon, it's there. If you don't do Amazon and you are a Barnes & Noble person, then you can find it there, or hit me up and I'll make sure it gets in your hands. But I really want to make sure that we use this as an opportunity to figure out how to tell more of these stories, how to listen better to some of these stories, how to practice the 9 asks of KiMISTRY and creating better places and spaces for people to heal. We can do the work of healing while we're at work. It is our birthright to be healthy, healed, and whole. And I'm hopeful that some part of my story, some part of this Browning Pleasantville story, or a part of your own story that you might see that's in alignment with this, is part of how you recenter yourself as the main character in your story so you can get healthy and healed and whole too. We deserve it. We're worth it.